friend of the program, John Podhoretz. John is the editor of Commentary and the host of the invaluable Commentary podcast. In fact, the last 3 episodes, everyone should listen to them if they want to understand what's going on in Israel right now. Hello, John. Thank you for the last 3 days. It's been a complicated time, and I just want to give you the floor.
It's not over yet.
I know.
Yeah,
you have the floor. Tell people what's going on, because you guys have really got this covered.
Well, I mean, what's going on as we speak is that there is now a real threat inside the Netanyahu government to the continuation of the Netanyahu government. One of the leaders of the Netanyahu is a coalition of a bunch of parties. Netanyahu's party, Likud, is the largest, but there are a bunch of other parties, and one of the 2 leaders of the most ideologically right-wing parties, Itamar Ben-Gvir, has announced his intention to resign from the coalition if the hostage deal goes through. His resignation alone would not topple the government, but there is another, his partner in ideological purity, Bezalel Smotrich is his name, will now be under pressure also to resign. If that happens, then the coalition that has governed Israel since the beginning of 2023 will no longer be capable of getting a majority vote in the parliament, the Knesset. Now, this gets even more complicated because the leader of the opposition, person who hates Bibi Netanyahu more than anybody else, is a man named Yair Lapid. But Yair Lapid wants the hostage deal and said a couple of days ago that should these 2 ministers and their parties resign from the coalition, he would direct his party and his members to vote with the government to approve the hostage deal and the ceasefire, and therefore Netanyahu would remain in power under the sufferance of this guy, Yair Lapid. Now, that can't last beyond 1 vote. Can't last beyond this one hostage deal vote. But so the hostage deal was agreed to. It's very controversial, and it may be the beginning of the end for Netanyahu's rule in Israel.
Now, the reason I think it was yesterday, I listen to every Commentary podcast, so they all blend together. I think it was yesterday that 4 of you, Noah Rothman was on, so it was yesterday. The 4 of you said, look, we're Americans, the Israelis want this deal. Is that still the case, even with a possible coalition falling? Does the country of Israel, by a supermajority, favor this deal?
Well, we don't know yet. I mean, the impression that one gets is that if you polled the Israeli people, they would say it's worth the risk. However, and there is a risk, and the risk is very simple. The deal posits that there will be a 6-week cessation of hostilities, at the end of which 33 of the 98 hostages will be released from Hamas custody. Some of them will be living, some of them will be dead. After those 42 days, something else will start to happen. We don't know what that is. That does not sound like a good deal to me. It doesn't sound like a good deal to anybody who is a deal maker. These are not equal parties in the sense that Israel was aggressed against. These are kidnappers. You are agreeing to cease hostilities to give the kidnappers hundreds, if not thousands, of prisoners out of Israeli jails, and they're only returning a third of the hostages. So
I listened to you yesterday. I think it was Abe who said yesterday. You explained all the complexities for non-specialists like me who are interested in what's happening. I think it was Abe who said there are always side deals and they don't come out for a long period of time. And Witkoff, right, Trump's envoy, went over there. Have you had any more insight into whether or not there is some kind of an agreement on the side here? Because it doesn't sound like a good deal to me either, unless it was my kid, in which case I would say do the deal right now.
But if it was your kid and you weren't sure that your kid was going to be one of the 33, maybe you wouldn't say it was a good deal. Maybe it would be better to defeat Hamas entirely than to roll the dice that you're one that you have a 33% chance of getting your kid out. So even there, that's not a particularly good deal. But again, it's not for us to say what the Israelis want or don't want. If the government falls, by the way, that will be an indication that this is not the consensus view of Israel. Even if the opposition, which has a sixth of the seats in the parliament, agrees to go along with it. So maybe it would be the Israeli consensus. There is no indication whatsoever that there are side deals.
What has Benny Gantz said about this? Because Gantz was in the
I don't know. I don't know what Benny Gantz has said about it. I haven't seen that. He's not really a player at the moment. He was in the government. He quit the government. I don't know. He was the defense minister. I don't know where he is.
What's your sister say about it? So John's sister, Ruthie Blum, is a terrific commentator occasionally.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. So she is very worried. She thinks it's a bad deal. But friends of hers say, you got to trust Bibi. And he's shown that he's handling things well. And so if he's agreeing and he didn't tell Steve Witkoff to pound sand, then maybe there's a reason to go along with it. Dan Senor on my podcast today says that what people are telling him is Israel right now is in the strongest strategic position that it has been in since 1967, right? Iran is denuded of power. Hamas is all but destroyed. Hezbollah is all but destroyed. Syria has fallen. And Israel is very strong. So if there were a time to take a big risk, this would be the time to take a risk. And I think that's an understandable position. This is a country that has gone through 15 months of war. Everyone in the country feels like these hostages are their children. Not everybody. I mean, enough people feel this way that this is torture. It's emotional torture for them that they're there. It seems to me a very strange calculus that 98 people should govern the geostrategic calculations of a country of 9.5 million people. But again, I'm not an Israeli, and I'm not part of this compact that Israelis have with their government, which is, and though I am a Jewish person, and according to Jewish law or Jewish custom, you are supposed to ransom for captives. That is a term, that is something that has been done since ancient times, that it is not only legal, but it is moral and ethical and appropriate to ransom for your captives if another tribe or another group takes them. So that's one complication, Jewish law. And then there is the Israeli
John,
government
that music
position.
means we're not on a podcast, so unfortunately I have to go to break. I just want to urge the audience, the Commentary Podcast, along with Dan Senor's Call Me Back, are essential because John and Abe and Dan and Matt and Seth and Christine, they know what they're talking about far more than anyone else on the news. Go and subscribe, like, watch, and listen to the Commentary Podcast. John Podhoretz, thank you, my friend. I'll be right back.